They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm, calling out corruption. We'll stand tall for justice and truth. We'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring.
Hello, good evening, social change warriors and justice seekers. Welcome to our Thursday night edition of Calling Out Corruption. I'm Catherine Felton Page, your founder of Social Change Warriors and your live host for our Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night episodes of Social Change Warriors. We're always so glad to be back and happy to see all of you that take the time out of your busy schedules to show up to the live streams. It's really meaningful to those of us that advocate for justice for families who have lost their loved ones and for the missing, for those loved ones that they're still looking for. And none of them have justice yet. So the fact that you can care about someone that you don't even know and you're willing to take time out of your busy lives and schedules to be here with us live is very meaningful. But we also truly appreciate those of you that watch on replay, because we know there is a lot going on any given night in your lives. And the extracurricular activity of advocating for others who you don't know is an extra. So we appreciate that you take the time to watch us on replay, and anything that you can do to help us advocate for the victims and the families that we're standing for via social media or emailing me questions or emailing support, because it can get lonely for the families at times. And I always forward that support that I get from you or that you share on my social medias. I make sure the families know that you are caring for their loved one. Hello, it's so good to see you. And hello, AJK, great to see you. I am really proud to be, oh, sorry about that. I have a puppy and he's learning. He just was alerted to something outside, but usually he's really good during our lives and he goes right to sleep, but we'll see how he does tonight. I'm very honored that I get the chance in my retirement to stand for victims of major crimes and homicide and the missing of domestic violence and homicides. It's really very, very meaningful to me. And it really is something that I will cherish forever. And I hope that I can leave a legacy that, come here, baby, come here, Tanner, come here, that I can leave a legacy for my kids and my family that are going to come after me, and that someone else will pick up my social change warriors gauntlet. And come here, Tanner, come here, baby. Sorry, guys. He's normally very quiet. Everyone that's usually here will attest to it. He's done really well since I've had him in February, but I guess he's going to make a little racket for us tonight. So I'll try to keep him under control. So anyway, we are a advocacy group, and I'm the only one, but I also have supporters. So I have a lot of supporters that follow me, follow the channel, watch us live or in replay, and they are part of our team. And we call ourselves the Agents of Change Tactical Team because we are looking for evidence. We are helping you read police reports. We are helping you to sort out the damage that has been done to your family in any way that we can. We are willing to help. You just give us our marching orders, and we are happy to help you in any way, whether that's live streaming or if it's just being there for you, supporting you, giving you our expert advice, reading, like I said, reading the police reports with you. Sadly, when we do have someone who's deceased, we will look at as well. Guys, hang on. Thanks, everyone. Sorry about that. I gave him a bone. The bone always helps out. So I apologize. He's learning how to be quiet, and it's normally pretty good. But tonight he was hearing things outside, trying to alert me to something that he wasn't happy about. So thanks for your patience. I appreciate it. Can't promise it won't be the last bark of the night. So like I was saying, we truly appreciate all of you. And I'm especially honored that we get to advocate for victims and their families and try to help them find some resolution if we can, and then help with coping mechanisms as well as we go through your fight for justice for your loved ones. So we live stream on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and you're welcome any of those nights. Wednesdays, we're really focused on domestic violence, missing women, and domestic violence victims and their families. There's other occasions where we may have another case on a Wednesday because we couldn't fit it in any other night. And that's always, we're very flexible. I'm a volunteer, I'm retired, so I'm flexible, but I try to keep somewhat of organization and a method to my madness. It helps me with organization and it helps me keep things flowing. So Wednesdays, we try to stick to the domestic violence, sadly, theme, which is a growing epidemic in our country and in the world. And then Thursday is when we're calling out corruption in cases that involve corruption with police and government, and you're your human being's case is not being solved and there's something nefarious going on. So we will highlight those cases on Thursdays. And then Fridays is our trial night. I've always been kind of fascinated with the law because I was a police officer. My mother worked in the law as a paralegal investigator. So I've listened about cases most of my life. So decided to add a Friday night so we can cover the cases that my subscribers are interested in. Right now, we are into the Karen Read and Justice for John O'Keefe. So it's a two-parter. We're covering it on Thursdays because of all the corruption in Canton, Massachusetts and Stoughton, Massachusetts. And then we're also covering it due to we want justice for John O'Keefe because his life mattered and someone needs to pay. And we do not believe the right person has been arrested and is on trial. So that's on Friday nights if you're interested in joining us. So those are our live streaming nights. So if you ever have any questions, you can email me anytime. I'll put my email up on the ticker on the bottom, but I changed that out a lot during the show with the different victims that we're standing for, justice for them. So you can write down their hashtags and share those out on your social media. And My Life Mattered is our one of our big hashtags because obviously everybody's life matters. But when your life has been taken by someone else and you had no choice in the matter, and then you don't even have justice, we want to scream this out to the perpetrators that Jason's life mattered. Daniel's life mattered, Eileen's life mattered, all of the victims that we're standing for and their families, they would, if they could come back and say anything to the person that took their life, that's what they would say, in my opinion. Hey, my life mattered. Why did you do this to me? Why did you do this to me and my family? So all we can ask for now is justice. And I am a social worker, so I believe in funding social workers. It's not that I don't believe in funding police, but I was a police officer, so it's very important. But to me, policing is a business, and it has to be treated like a business in a lot of capacities. And I could have a whole live stream about that. But I believe social workers and police need to work together and not against each other. And taking guns to welfare checks is never a good idea, and it scares the crap out of me and it frightens me. And so we have to do more to figure out how we handle mental illness and mental welfare cases in our country. And that's where social workers can be hugely important and introspective for the police. So, and then of course we stand with victims of domestic violence all the time, but on Wednesdays is when we live stream. So tonight we are meeting, sadly, and I do hate that this is part of my volunteer advocacy, that when I meet a new family, it's not good. And I wish I wasn't meeting you. I wish I never knew any of my 13 that I'm advocating for right now. I wish I'd never met any of you, because that means your person would be alive and then I'd be out of business, right? If nobody, not that I'm in business, we're a nonprofit, but I know you know what I mean. I've loved and feel feelings for everyone that I've met, all the families that I've been working with and advocating with, and I care for them so deeply, and I'm so grateful that I know them. But I say this to Kara all the time, who's become a very good friend of mine. I wish her husband, Jason Beach, was here and that she had never met me. And that chokes me up, because the fact that you know me is because your loved one is either passed or is missing, and that is horrible. And we don't ever want that for anyone. So tonight we're meeting the family, and we're going to hear about Daniel Read Smith and the tragedy that happened to him on the last day of his life here on earth. And we have his mother with us in our friend zone, as I call it. Everybody on the YouTube platforms and the content creators call it the chat box, but I like to have my own thing. I beat to my own drummer. So I call it the friend zone. So I do not want to mispronounce your name. So can you phonetically give it to me there in the friend zone? Is it Lesia or Licia? Because it's very beautiful. And I've never actually seen that name before. This is a first for me. AJK, I know how to pronounce your name. So thank you so much for being here with me live tonight. Oh, just Lisa. Okay. Well, there you go. See, I tried to make it harder than it had to be. Well, my dear, you have my absolute deepest condolences. And so does your dear husband and your other children and your family, your friends. This is a terrible tragedy, the loss of a child, and then to not have any justice and to have your child be blamed for his own death, which is at the end of my discussion about and letting you get to know a little bit about this family. I am going to update you on my other victims that I'm advocating for, because we did not have time to do that last night on the Wednesday. Wednesdays is called the Angry Bitch Club because that's what we do on Wednesdays. We just need a night to just vent and complain and bitch about the travesties that are going on in the lives of so many families and the dirty corruption that is out there. And so that's what we do on Wednesdays. We're not super technical. We don't review police reports. We don't try to solve cases. We just like to get up and talk and advocate and complain and have an Angry Bitch Club night. So those are our Wednesdays. But I was going to do an update last night for all of you on all of the victims to keep you updated on their families and what's going on. And we just simply ran out of time because we spent the night really having a great night. Julie and I putting out our opinions about the Karen Read, John O'Keefe situation, and the trial is now back in full swing this week. So we spent last night with that. So, oh, great. Well, welcome to your husband as well. And again, my condolences to all of you. This is just epically tragic. So let me give you a little background about the family and what happened to their son. He was visiting with friends, and he was at a party, which is what a lot of young kids in their 20s and 30s do, right? They like to go out and have fun and socialize with friends and associates. And something happened at the party that went very wrong. And it sounds like it happened relatively quickly. It sounds to me from what I'm new to this case. So you guys are actually helping me build the case deck tonight. That's what I do for all of my victims that I advocate for. I build a case deck on a Google slide deck. And then as we build that through the weeks, as we live stream updates and we advocate, we continue to add more information, more videos as they come to us, any information that the family gives us. And that's what I had up on the screen with me. That now belongs to your family, and I will make sure you have access to it. And that's what I use to continue my advocacy and to help you try to figure out where this case went wrong and why there is nobody paying for your sons. What we do believe now, YouTube doesn't like me to use the M word, which I do not understand why. I'm sorry, I'm not monetized yet, so I can say it. I don't know why murder has become a word we can't use on social media, because that's what it is. That's been a word in the dictionary for as long as there's been a dictionary. And I don't understand these new issues with social media and words that we're not allowed to say. So I'm supposed to say unalived, which that does not jive with me. I'm 62 and I don't like that. So I say the M word because I'm still going to refer to it that way. And they don't seem to hate me for homicide. So I'll use that. That's more of that's an umbrella term though. So that's not specific to, first degree murder, which is intentional murder. Right. And then we have second degree, and then we have manslaughter. So there's different ways that unfortunately people do lose their lives. So, you'll hear me sometimes referred to YouTube not allowing me to say things because it irritates me. So I like to put it out there on the live stream. So he was, like I said, this was a party that went wrong, not unlike John O'Keefe. He went to an after bar party and it went wrong very fast. And we believe there was a bar fight that ensued in the house over some issues of, I think, criminality that John found out about in the Albert family, and they weren't happy with him about it. So we will talk about all that tomorrow night. But one thing I've noticed in all 13 currently, I think actually Daniel makes 14 cases that I'm advocating for the victims and their families and the missing. There is a common thread in all of this. And there's some type of hatred, domestic violence, friendship type violence, or friendship type disagreements. There's a thread common in all of these. And it's very alarming and very scary that the majority of people that are unalived in our society are unalived by someone they know. And that it's terrifying that at any given moment, someone could take your life over normally what is really most of the time solvable situations, especially obviously in domestic violence cases, but even in friendship and in sometimes, things go wrong when kids are doing drugs or participating in that lifestyle and they're buying from people they don't know that well, and they don't know how nefarious that background is of that person, or they meet people through other friends and they have no clue what their background is or what they're into. So there's obviously many different ways that people can be unalived by others, other than obviously accidents and medical issues. But it's never good, and it's dark and it's scary for the families after it happens, because they probably never saw it coming. Most of the time, when we feel threatened by someone else, and even women or in intimate partner violence, they don't tell anybody. They let it happen, and they know these people are a threat to them, but they don't want it to bring it home. They don't want to bring it home to their families and their friends. So most of the time we don't even know that our loved ones are in this kind of peril until it's too late. And that is it's just horrible. And that's the only way we can protect people, is we have to teach our children and educate our friends that, you have to say something, right? That what the new hashtag has been going on since hashtags became a thing is see something, say something. And of course, I don't advocate to ever put yourselves in danger. I'm not saying that. I mean, I was a police officer. I signed up to be in danger like a lot of my fellow officers. But as neighbors, as community members, we can form a village. And that's what neighborhood watch groups were started. And I actually started one of those at the University of Wisconsin when I was a police officer. I started one of the first neighborhood watch groups for a college campus, because everybody has to take care of each other. We can't just live in our little silos and expect the world to watch out for us. We have to all watch out for each other, and we have to hold the police and the government accountable. We can't just sit back and say, oh, they're hired, they're elected, they'll do okay, they'll be honest, they'll be forthright, they'll tell the truth all the time. No, because there's nefarious, nasty people in every form of our society on every level. So we have to watch each other's backs. And then when it happens, when that horrible thing happens to your family that you could never have foreseen, then we need to come together for you as a community, and we need to stand for you and help you get justice for your loved ones. That is the very least we can all do for each other in the short time that we're on this earth. So this is a sad and horrible, tragic event that has happened to this family. They have lost their son, and somebody else, we believe, and I believe this now after having studied the case for the last 2 weeks since I first met Lisa and her family, and I met them via Where is Sarah Ebersol, which is the missing mom, she is the missing mom that I'm advocating for just to my west in Marion County, Florida, about 2 hours from me. And I've been working with her sister, Michelle, and many amazing Sarah's soldiers, we call them. And that is how I met Lisa, because Lisa, even in her own grief, and I give you so much for this, Lisa. I wish I could hug you right now. In your own grief, you're helping Michelle, and you're standing, hi buddy, you're standing for Sarah, and you're making a difference by advocating for her when your own child was taken from you. And that's really amazing to me that you have that much in you, that much strength to be able to advocate for someone else's missing sister when your own child is no longer with you. So you're an amazing woman. I'm so happy I've been able to meet you, but I wish I'd never met you. So Daniel's life was taken this night. And from what I can garner from everything I've been able to read, I haven't caught up to everything yet. It's a very complicated case. It's been going on for 6 years. And let me bring my slide deck back up with me here for just a moment. So this is Daniel. Let me make myself smaller because I want you to be able to see him. These are images that I was able to get from the family and from a news media that's been following his case and advocating for him. And I just wanted to share with you too that these statistics are very scary, and they make me frustrated that this is where we're at, that there's this, how studies work, right? You're not going to know what's going on this year for a couple more years, because it takes time to do a study, and then it takes time to get the reports out and to go over all the results. So in 2022, 63% of violent crimes reported to law enforcement went unsolved. And that's 10,000 homicides, 10,000 lives, souls that nobody's paying for their passing. That's just not acceptable. We have to do better. We cannot allow this in our society anymore going forward. And 340,000 homicides and non-negligent manslaughter cases went unsolved. And this was from a long period of time that they got this research. 1965, and I was 2, to 1921. It's utterly stunning that this many people met their maker, not by their own hands, not by disease or illness or accident, but by the hand of someone else. And that person did not pay for their participation in that person's death. This is called the homicide clearance rate. Some of you may have never heard of this before, but this is the percentage of homicides that are cleared by arrest. And this is shocking to me because when I was an officer, this was in the 60s. And that's still not super high, and it's very discouraging, but it's very discouraging to me. I just looked this up today that and this is 2020. So I'll be keeping an eye on this to see what our new percentages are, but this is very alarming to me, and it should alarm all of us in our societies that we have to do better. We have to do better. Does that mean we have to train our police officers and our detectives better and our FBI, or what do we have to do to get justice for people? It's just really sad, and I'm just depressed by that today. I really, really, truly am. So this is Daniel, and Lisa, this is your grandson, right? And I know that it was okay to show him. I don't normally show children, but there was such a beautiful bond here. Husband can speak on our case. That would be great. Would he like to come on the platform tonight, or would you prefer to do that next time? Because I can give the background that you've given me. But either one of you is always welcome to come on the platform, and you do not have to come on with your camera. You can come on just by audio, or you can call. I have a Google number now for people to call in and speak with me. So why don't you contemplate that for a minute, and we'll decide how you want to handle that. So this is the railroad track. This was a picture that was part of the FIT News, and I've been in touch with them as well, because obviously we're going to give full credit to them for the amazing coverage that they've given to this family, and we're going to look at that a little bit tonight. So while you're thinking, if you are interested in either calling the Google number, I can put it in the chat friend zone area, or coming on the platform, I can text you the green room, and it's very simple on your phone to just come right onto the platform. So think that over. I'm just going to share my screen and just play a little bit of background for all of you on Daniel's very sad and tragic passing. So give me just a second here to do the tech work of this. And I usually ask someone in the chat if you could, in the friend zone, if you could just let me know that you can hear it just by typing yes. He is good either way. Okay, very good. I'm going to play this. And while I do that, if you, let's see here, I'm going to send you the green room in the private messenger where we've been talking. So let me start this for you guys, and just type yes, you can hear it. And then I'll get that out to the family as soon as I start.
A Family Searches for Answers in Dorchester Man's Death by Jen Wood. Lesia Melendez sat down on her couch on August 11, 2018 after an outing with her husband and turned on his police scanner. Her husband, Eric Melendez, was an investigator with the South Carolina First Circuit Solicitor's Office, and they often listened to the scanner in the evenings as they relaxed. As they listened, Lesia recalled hearing officers being summoned to the scene of a body found on the railroad tracks near Jedburgh, SC, at which point she said she knew. She doesn't know how or why, but Lesia knew the body was that of her son, Daniel Reed Smith. Lesia and Eric called everyone they knew in the law enforcement community to get more information, but they were told detectives were still processing the scene. No one was able to tell them what they knew in their hearts. So they waited. They waited for the knock on the door. Her stomach was in knots the entire time, because she already knew that knock was inevitable.
Okay.
It wasn't long before officials from the coroner's office arrived. Eric met them in the driveway, and they confirmed what Lesia's intuition had been telling her for hours. Lesia doesn't remember anything from the moment she saw them walking up the drive until the moment Eric pulled her shattered body off the bathroom floor. When she was finally able to speak, she asked if he was shot, and authorities told her they wouldn't know until after the autopsy. She does recall being told it looked like he was killed and placed on the train tracks. Daniel Reed Smith was known by his friends and family as DJ. Lesia remembers his.
I just wanted to make sure you guys are getting the sound. When I'm running some tech, I'm not you can't see me and I can't see you. So, well, you can see me because I stay in that little box, but I can't see you. I'm in this little hidden tech room running the sound. So if somebody in the friend zone can just say, yes, we're okay, we can hear it, that'd be great. Cause I don't like to keep running something and not know for sure that you're all hearing it. So I'm going to wait to make sure you can hear that in the friend zone. And I'm going to send the link to you, Lisa, right now. So stand by, everybody. I'm going to put a little music on. Okay, I just sent him the green room to his phone number, and we'll give that a try here in a second. Come here, Tanner. Okay, I just sent the green room to your husband, Lisa, and so we'll give him a second. If I'm going to keep playing this as long as you, yes, sound is good. Thank you, HAK. I really appreciate it. There's nothing worse to me than when I'm on someone else's live stream and they think the tech is working, but it's not working and they're not reading the chat box because they're busy kind of into it themselves. So that's why I always ask the chat, please let me know if you can hear this. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling this until they get in. Oh, they're calling me on my, FaceTime video. Okay, wow. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can do this while I'm live streaming. Hang on a second. Hi there.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you? You
Good.
see me?
I can't, I'm FaceTiming with you, but what I was going to have you do is I gave you, I texted you the link for the green room so you can come on screen with me. It's really pretty easy to do.
Okay.
Because they'll have a hard time hearing you via my cell phone.
Okay.
So all you have to do is click on that link I gave you and follow the directions and it'll bring you right into my green room on my platform.
Okay.
All right, great. Give it a try. See you in a minute. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye. Okay, we're going to give this a try, guys, and thank you. So I'm going to play this again while we're waiting. And Lisa, what's your husband's name? Can you type that for us as well in the friend zone? Thank you. All right, let's go back.
His great sense of humor, recalling how he always wanted to make people laugh. His bond with his two sisters was especially strong. They always had each other's back because they were all just 2 years apart, Lesia said. Lesia describes her son as the life of the party and remembers how he gave the best hugs, the kind of hugs that embrace your soul. She sighs when she recalls them, saying no hug can replace his. Lesia Melendez and her children provided When he wasn't working at his construction job, DJ could be found helping friends and family with projects around their homes. But his most cherished role was being a father. He took his young son Reed fishing and for rides down country roads, sharing stories about when he grew up. He attended every school function and was proud of the young man he was raising. Lesia smiles as she recalls their relationship. I couldn't say enough of how much he loved Reed. Her smile fades and tears come to her eyes as she continues, I'm sure Reed was the last person he thought about as they were beating him. When DJ's body was found on August 11, 2018 on the railroad tracks between Campbell Thicket Road and Orangeburg Road in Dorchester County, the entire family was shattered. Authorities investigating his tragic death came to a swift conclusion that it was either an accident or suicide. But Lesia knew something was off because, well, a mother knows. The Dorchester County Sheriff's Office handled the initial investigation, but called in assistance from the SC State Law Enforcement Division, SLED, shortly after beginning. They also conflicted the case to the SC 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office due to Eric's role as an investigator with the local solicitor, David Pascoe. But as a seasoned law enforcement professional trained in complex investigations, Eric was tracking the case closely and growing increasingly concerned. The night DJ died. Lesia explained to me that while DJ had issues with drugs in the past, he was more of a recreational user. She knows he certainly wasn't perfect, but she also realizes glossing over this part of his life will not help them find the truth about how he died. DJ spent his last night alive at a bonfire with a couple of friends at their home in Ridgeville, South Carolina. The investigation into his death began by interviewing the individuals at this party. These were people DJ considered his friends. The home was rented by Catherine Boyd and Ashley Adams. Dorchester County detectives began their investigation on August 20, 2018, by interviewing Adams about the events of that night. Both Boyd and Adams reported that DJ didn't seem like himself that night and claimed that he was distant that day and was on his phone a great deal. Police review of DJ's cell phone records confirmed this, but many of the other details of that evening provided to law enforcement were varied. The individuals at the party were all interviewed. The one consistent statement was that DJ arrived with a friend named Trevor McGee between 9 o'clock and 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Beyond that, though, the statements of the partygoers were wholly inconsistent. Depending on who was asked, DJ left the party with Trevor or with someone in a blue car for a short time. Or, he didn't leave at all. Depending on who was asked, there was a fight at the party between Catherine Boyd and her boyfriend, Steve Creel.
What?
There wasn't a fight. Some said DJ was involved in the fight. Others said he wasn't involved. According to most attendees, a man named Steve Creel left the party with two friends, Michael Arana and Dalton Riley, around 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But why he left also depends on who was asked. Creel either left because of the fight, or because he left to relieve a babysitter he hired for his son. Depending on who was asked, the three returned to the house later in the evening, or they stayed at Creel's home in Ridgeville. There was zero consensus, and it was about to get even more confusing.
Let's see. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yeah, my mouse got stuck. Sorry about that,
Okay,
guys.
I got you down. Yeah, I can hear.
Apologize, everybody. Sometimes this little mouse it sticks, and so it doesn't take me off of mute. So I apologize for that. What I was saying was welcome, and we are so incredibly sorry for your loss and for your wife's loss. And as I was listening to that article and reading it and going over all of the information that you and your wife so kindly sent me, I was immediately drawn, and you being former law enforcement will know exactly what I'm talking about, that I wish I'd already built my board. So I have a big bulletin board I use when I first start on a case, and then I turn it into a Google Doc so I can share it with everybody. But I'm a visual person and I'm old school. And I should have already built that, because there's so many people involved with your son that night, so many players in this last evening of his life. So can you kind of help us out with that? Nobody knows this case better than you and your wife.
So as the video or the narrative that everybody kind of just heard, he attended this get together. There were a lot of people out there that he didn't know. He knew about 3 or 4 of the people
Okay.
at this bonfire that he went to with a friend that took him out there. But all I can tell you is the little narrative about the next morning. Lisa had a suspicion she hadn't heard from him, and then we heard the fatality that was on the railroad tracks come across my radio. And she, mother's intuition, I don't know what it was, but she believed that something tragic had happened to DJ.
Oh.
So I'd worked in that jurisdiction, and so I called a detective, called the coroner's office, and nobody knew anything. And I knew then that it's odd that they wouldn't tell me anything. So about 40 minutes later, they showed up in the driveway, and they let us know that it was Daniel DJ that was found on the tracks. But the first week of his death, I've been a detective a long time, but
What department are you with, sir, or were you with?
so I'd worked for Dorchester County,
Okay.
found the sheriff's office, and I'd worked, as the narrative said, I'd worked for the solicitor at the First Circuit Solicitor's Office as their investigator, and that's where I was at the time of his death.
Okay.
But he, we had a hang up. We had a phone call come into a relative, basically an anonymous phone call, the first week of his death, wanting to know if they were related to him. And, of course I said yes. And I just wanted to let you know that, he was killed and dumped on the tracks, and the caller hung up. Well, that call could not be traced. There was no caller ID at the location where the call came in. So we were at a loss there to find out who it was.
And this was early on, you said, right?
Just within days of his death.
So it was obviously somebody who felt guilt knowing that had happened.
Correct. And, and obviously those types of calls don't normally come in, on accidents, and they don't normally come in, in general. They just don't.
Right.
So it was a unique situation, but that was kind of like the first, I don't even want to call it a clue, but it was the first bit of information that kind of led us in a direction other than the fact it wasn't an accident.
Right. And did you feel that from the beginning? Did you and your wife sense that this was not an accident from the beginning, or were you not sure?
Yeah. So, based, just on my own background, I never rushed to judgment. So I didn't go to the scene. I was really we were following along with what the sheriff's office was telling us about his death. that allegedly he got struck by the train,
Right.
and so
So you just weren't sure what to make of it. It was a tragedy, and you're all reeling from this tragedy and grief, and so you really weren't sure what to make of what happened to your son
that's
in
right.
the beginning. Yeah.
So as things went on, it's not a big community. We're not talking a big city. Rumors started swirling around
What
the
is the
community.
name of the city, sir?
Somerville, South Carolina.
Somerville. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, thank you for your service as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. But anyway, so just rumors started swirling around that he was dumped on the tracks, and he was found in different, I'll just say trash bags over his head, and just different rumors of his death. And those were odd coming out so soon. And so any bits
And you didn't believe you knew that wasn't true, right? Based on the coroner's report and what the
well, it took so long. I wasn't able to get any of that because it was an active investigation, and
okay.
most agencies won't release any information pertinent to an active investigation, because it could jeopardize obviously the integrity of the case. So I
Right.
wasn't privy to it because I was outside, even though I worked for the investigator or for the solicitor's office. I wasn't allowed to get into any of the case at all,
Right.
so those
That
bits,
makes sense. I mean, that makes sense.
Go
I
ahead.
wasn't sure if it makes sense to me. Obviously, they're in an open investigation. All anybody can get, even family members, is redacted police reports. But I would have thought they might have shared something with you as to the cause, obviously, of his death.
Yeah, they did not. And I will say that I was at that sheriff's office many times, sitting in front of now the sheriff, Sam Richardson, giving them whatever information that was coming through to the family. I just, I would provide that to them in an effort to try and figure out what happened to him, because it appeared there was something more to his death other than him, walking down the railroad tracks and getting struck. So,
And I am a little surprised, though, that they didn't give the family more information. That I've heard of.
yeah,
You have a doggy family too, I hear.
yes, I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I'm surprised my little guy's not here. He went into the other room, but I'm sure if he hears that, he'll bark. Yeah, I am a little surprised that they didn't give you at least a little more information, because I know they are allowed to at least give the family something when a loved one has been killed, even if it's an open investigation.
They really didn't. I mean, just we were initially told that next Monday after his death that he had stood in front of the train and gotten hit. And I there's that, to me, there was no way I was going to believe that, that most people are not going to stand in front of a train and let themselves get run over. It's just not, it's just not commonplace.
It's a very rare form of unaliving of oneself. Very rare. Yeah.
So I knew better than that situation. So,
Right.
The investigation continued to take its route. It did, but there were problems early on. They didn't conduct the first interview with any witnesses at the house, let's say, for 10 days. So it took them almost 2 weeks to conduct the first interview, which is tragic. And, most people will be familiar with the first 48 hours. I don't want to say that we don't solve crimes in 30 minutes, but the first 48 hours are probably the most critical time frame, especially today, as technology is, you have to strike while the iron's hot.
And
for
people's memories, because as I've learned in all of these cases that I'm advocating for, and most people already know this, but it's worth repeating, people's memories don't get better with time.
right.
People's memories fade with time because more and more is coming into your brain and crowding out what is no longer essential to you. Because if this wasn't your family member or your loved one, even though you might have witnessed something, the further out you go, the less details that person may or may not remember.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time. So I'm going to go back and finish this clip for a few minutes, and then I have a couple questions to ask you about this bonfire and this party.
Okay.
So
Yep.
I'll take us back to the clip for just a moment, and then we'll come back together again. We'll kind of go back and forth from the clip to you and me, and kind of sort it all out for our subscribers and those of us those that will be on replay with us. Okay, let me bring this back up here. There we go.
Trevor McGee left the party at some point to pick up his girlfriend, whose shift at the Waffle House in Summerville, South Carolina ended at 4 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Depending on who was asked, Trevor left at midnight or he left at 1:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Trevor told authorities DJ was asleep in a chair and he shook him awake to let him know he was leaving. What is known is at some point after midnight, DJ moved to sleep in Ashley Adams' single bed. According to Adams, when she decided to go to bed, she woke him up and asked him to move to the couch. DJ thought he was being asked to leave the house and became upset with Adams leaving shortly after the argument on foot. Both Adams and Catherine Boyd's accounts verified the argument between the two, but reports of the actual time of the argument and DJ's departure vary. Depending on who was asked, DJ left at some point between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. What is known is that when DJ left the party, he had a backpack and a cell phone with just 3% battery life remaining. The long walk. All of these varying accounts do end consistently. At some point between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on August 11, 2018, DJ Smith walked away from the home on Ridge Road heading towards Ridgeville with his backpack on his shoulders. DJ's body was found approximately 4.2 miles from the party on the railroad tracks, a short distance away from Norfolk Southern's 28-mile sign marker. A video captured by one train at 4:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on August 11, 2018 shows what appears to be a person between the railroad tracks. Viewing the video, one is unable to determine the position of his body, but it appears to be located between the rails and not outside them. His injuries are not indicative of the train hitting him while standing, but rather it running over him while he lay on the tracks. It would have taken DJ some time to arrive at the location where his body was found. DJ's stepfather, Eric Melendez, recently videoed his walk of this route to document how long it would have taken him to get there. The total time? 1 hour and 41 minutes. https://player.vimeo.com/video/826501351 H =04 a 1D04758 ampersand badge =0 ampersand autopause =0 ampersand player _ID =0 ampersand.
Some kind of a funky code that gets read out when come here, Tanner. When you have an article playback like that, it's kind of a funky code that they read out.
Yeah, I heard that.
Puppy. So this party that he was invited to, a bonfire, was it out in the country? Was it at someone's house, or was it just out in the woods?
Yeah, Ridgeville is just outside of Summerville, and it is a extremely rural area, and it was somebody's house.
Okay.
It was a rental.
Okay.
There were 3 girls living in there, adults living in there. And Reed knew one of them, but he didn't know the other or I'm sorry, DJ, didn't know the other two. I mean, they're acquaintances, but he knew the one lady or female that lived there.
Okay.
They weren't involved with one another like romantically. He was just a friend.
Friends, sure.
But since then, I can just fast forward because it's almost been 7 years now.
I
since
know.
his death. August it'll be 7 years. But
what was the date on that again? August 11th, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So it'll be 7 years on August 11th.
Correct. But he was found between the rails of the train. I had met with the casualty group, Norfolk Southern, the guy that handles all incidents related to the railroad, and his opinion when he met with us, Lisa and I, he said, your son wasn't struck by the train. He goes, you can lay down between the rails, and that train will pass over you without striking you. The only thing that would hit you would be the appendages, like the hoses between the cars. And I can tell you, it took me 2 years to get the case files from Dorchester County. And it also, because I had just raised so much cane, I guess, with Dorchester, they ended up turning the case over to the state law enforcement division here in South Carolina, which is SLED. And they ended up being the lead investigation agency over the case after a period of time. And but tragically, there are failures in both agencies' investigation, and too many. It would take me quite a while to go through all of those. But I'm
sure you have a list. I would assume if you have some kind of a list that you've put together from the first agency, I would like to look at it and go over it. If you have anything like that.
It's huge. I've done some TikTok videos, like for instance, my stepson DJ, he had tire impressions down his right pant leg, comparing his injuries. Some of his injuries were consistent with someone being struck by an automobile. So we, with the help of Fitz News, we were able to get a hold of an MD that had worked basically in the military in overseas.
Yes.
And she is a female. She had seen a lot of traumatic injuries. And in doing so, she came back stateside, and then she had some residency. But she evaluated all of the autopsy photos, the autopsy report. She reviewed a lot of the factual information that was available in the case. And it was her conclusion, along with mine, that those injuries were consistent with someone that had been struck by an automobile, pedestrian auto collision. And the other fact of when you look at the scene photos, there's no blood on the scene. There were some injuries to his body, and I won't discuss those over the our right now, obviously. But there should have been, based on some of the injuries, which were not consistent with a train collision, right. Those injuries would have caused blood loss, and there is no. Of
course. And I have a question for you.
Sure.
This is going to sound like a dumb question now, but how in the world, when they were first investigating this in that first 10 to 15 to 20 days, and they knew from the coroner's report that there were tire impressions on his pant leg, how in the world did they not take that into some kind of deep care and concern and consideration that he had been hit by a car? Did they ever give you an answer to that?
They never looked at his pants. They never photographed, laid out his clothes, and looked at his clothing. I'm just telling, there is just a multitude of.
Is this the sheriff's department that was investigating this first?
Dorchester. Dorchester.
So it was,
Go ahead.
so Dorchester Sheriff's Department is who had your son's case at the beginning.
That's correct. Yeah.
Approximately how many officers do they have at this Sheriff's Department?
It's been a minute. Maybe
Approximately.
200, 250 plus, something to that effect, and I give or
Right.
take
So-
a few.
So
But
this
I think
isn't just
somewhere around
this isn't a small, tiny sheriff's department. This is a pretty hefty
No,
size sheriff.
Yes, it Dorchester
when
County
you
is a fairly
worked
large
there-
county.
And when you worked there, what was your role?
Most of my time was as a detective for that agency. Yeah.
So you were a detective for the very agency that obviously completely botched your son's homicide investigation.
Yeah, I wasn't employed with them at the time of his death. I had, while I was working in Dorchester County, I was an investigator for what you may refer to in where you live as they're commonly known as a district attorney.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
And what do you call them?
they're called solicitors.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It
Okay.
is. It's an English thing. England, that's what they called their prosecutors, were solicitors.
Right. And every state, it's a little different. The case that I'm following on Friday nights, the death of Officer John O'Keefe and the what I believe is the wrongful arrest of Karen Reed. It's the Commonwealth is what the prosecuting section is called. What they refer to them, they're called the Commonwealth, which I'd never heard of that before. So every state has their own way of labeling those that do investigations and those that prosecute cases.
Right. But anyway, we've come a long way. We've we filed a wrongful death suit now. It's probably been 2 years? 2 years? Something of that. Yeah, maybe just over 2 years. We filed a wrongful death suit, and we're working our way through depositions. I can tell you that we know that there were 4 individuals that rode out there that night, and nobody from there put them out there, but there were mistakes in their statements. Some of these people that were out there, they made mistakes. They sent text messages acknowledging that these people were out there with their own friends, but to law enforcement or to anyone else, they weren't there. But those mistakes have come around full circle, because some people have kind of done the right thing and provided that information to us. So now we know for a fact that these individuals were out there. We've identified the vehicle, but the difficult part for me, and like many other families, is even though I do what I have done in my past, we're basically having to depose people in a civil matter to get under oath statements to show that they were there, and what their actions were, and while they may be incriminating themselves under oath because they provided a statement previously to law enforcement, the statements that we're obtaining now, we can still bring those over. But the problem that we have is the only 2 agencies that could make the arrest are Dorchester and the State Law Enforcement Division.
Right.
And those 2 people were already charged with investigating it and determining whether or not, there was a crime that occurred. I have a tremendous amount of, if it were me and it was my case personally, I can tell you that I would have enough to probably ultimately arrest somebody. I'd have to call some people in and, Mirandize them and do it officially as law enforcement. Right. But I would say I'd have enough to to arrest some of these people and they'd be charged with murder. And the ones that have, dumped his body on the tracks, they're accessories.
Well, yes, of course.
To the murder themselves. But
so as you investigated basically your son's case yourselves, is what it sounds like you had to do. Was there ever any apologies or anything at all from this agency where you used to work?
No, not at all. No, absolutely not. I mean, they've closed the case. I had a good friend that was a prosecutor. He's a private attorney now, and he and I both went down to the prosecutor's office probably maybe a year and a half, something, maybe not quite as long after I got the case files, and I'd gone through and I discovered a lot of failures and inconsistencies with statements, basically alibis of people where they said they were, and other people that knew them said no, they weren't there. And or the people they said they were with, when they were interviewed, they said, I don't know what you're talking about. He wasn't here.
Quick question. When the first agency closed the case, what were the reasons that the agency used to work for, which is so serendipitously sad? What were their reasonings for closing the case, and what did they end up saying was the cause of death?
Well, you remember Dorchester, they pitched the case to the state law enforcement division. So technically, they just handed it off to them and said, hey, we need you to take over this case.
And why did they do that? What was their reasoning for that?
I guess out of frustration, because we were just causing a lot of pressure, trying to get them, for instance, that agency never came to the house, never once come to my wife and said, hey, so does he work anywhere? Where does your son live? Does he have any phones? Does he have any children? I mean, it's just basically same as what they did. They never conducted the first interview after, until 2 weeks after his death. So it was just, all of the fundamentals of the investigation from early.
Yes. Training and procedure, this like the back of your hand, and I know this is training and procedure. This is proper police procedure. None of this was done for your son. So it sounds almost to me like they just wanted to make it go away. They wanted it to be his fault that he either accidentally got hit by a train or unalived himself.
Correct. Yes. And I would agree that, when you go out to a train collision and you have a dead pedestrian that's deceased, the first thing you think is, he just got hit by a train. However, right after his death, information started coming in that would have given them more of an opportunity to look a little bit deeper in that, into the scene, and then into where he was coming from, and just backing into the investigation. But they just didn't do it. They missed a lot of the more important things, like trying to find out what your victim's all about. What's his life about? What was he doing the night before? Those types of things. Even if it was a suicide, you'd still know.
You have to investigate. The police,
Right.
A police officer or a sheriff's department, it's not their job to assume what happened or to look at the very first thing that it could be. Their job is to rule out all the things that it couldn't be.
Correct.
And then come to the conclusion of what it is after you've done a proper investigation and interviewed witnesses. And like you said, looked into his background, looked into his financials. Who did he talk to? Who was he on the phone with? Was he having an argument with anybody? Was there a disgruntled person in his life? I mean, these are all just normal police sheriff's procedures for investigating a death.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I can't even imagine the frustration, you being a fellow law enforcement officer and having this happen to you.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I'm so sorry. This is just terrible. This is just tragic.
Yeah, it is tragic that it's a huge failure, but it's like I explain it to a lot of guys now is and people that I work with is you have good plumbers, electricians,
Yes.
bricklayers, and you have good detectives, and it's like any other profession. Sometimes you just don't have, and I'm not being critical of those individuals that investigated his case. But the fact of it is you what you're looking at is not just necessarily the reality of what the scene is. Don't rush to judgment. Don't get tunnel vision. But the problem is his case, he just didn't have qualified investigators, and they didn't listen to what we were sharing with them. Fortunately,
Right.
and no
Well,
matter.
I find it very endearing of you that you're willing to be so kind and not and say I'm not criticizing. I think you have every right to criticize those who didn't do a proper police investigation. And on in my advocacy work, that's what I'm here for, is to call out corruption and to call out shoddy police work and to try to help hold people accountable for not getting justice for families because of shoddy police work. Because like you said, every profession has people that just aren't doing their jobs, whether it's from not paying attention when they were trained, or boredom, or they just don't like the job, so they're just not doing a good job. But of all the jobs in the world that you have to be always as good as you can possibly be, being a police officer is one of them. You know, you're entrusted by the community to protect, to serve and protect. And then those detectives within your department are there to take that evidence that you garner from your original investigation, and that the autopsy garners, and interviews that officers do. And then that detective's job is to sort all that out and to try to build a case if there is a case to be built. And it doesn't sound like they did any of that.
No, I mean, they didn't. And there is so much, most recently, we had somebody come forward, and we know that something happened inside the house, that he was struck inside the house with
this is sounding eerily like John O'Keefe. The parallels are striking to me. I don't know if you or your wife have any clue about this case up in Canton, Massachusetts, but a police officer was found dead on the front lawn of another police officer's house. And the investigation was so poorly handled. They didn't secure the scene. They blamed it on the snow and the cold. They didn't do proper interviews. They didn't separate the witnesses. They never went in the house. They never once thought to go in the house and check to see if the fight happened in the house and if there's more possibly dead people in the house. They did none of that. And the homeowner, the officer, never came out of the house with all that commotion in his front yard. So and we believe that he was struck in the home, and that he was in a fight in the home, and then they put his body on the lawn and moved it so that it would look like he was struck in a blizzard by a snowplow or by another motor vehicle. So when I read over your son's case over the last 2 weeks and familiarized myself to it, it was just stunning, the similarities between what happened to John O'Keefe and what happened to your son. Obviously differences, but very similar. Only they did arrest someone in his case, but they arrested the wrong person, many of us believe, and all the people that actually did this are getting away with it, which in your son's case, they arrested no one. They never even attempted to build a case at all.
No, they didn't. And like I was saying, I took a considerable amount of evidence to show that the case was failed in several areas, where they had basically killed him, where they had transported his body to an abandoned house. And basically two individuals are seen at the abandoned house by a guy that lived next door to the abandoned house. One of those two gentlemen go over and borrow 2 trash bags from this guy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and these two guys are their alibi was that they were over in a neighboring county picking up a female, and then they basically bring her back to a house not far from where the incident location would have been, not the train tracks, but the house where he was at. But like I was alluding to, when the state law enforcement division contacted this female, she basically said that she didn't know either one of those guys and had no idea what they were talking about, and hung up the phone. And that was the end of it. They never tried to pursue her, and they never went back to the other 2 individuals to say, hey guys, we got a problem. This girl that you were with, she doesn't know either one. You no idea. So it's just, and I could go on and on with things of that nature that have failed. And
Now, that wasn't the first agency. That was after the second agency took over,
yeah,
right?
correct. Yes. And so,
So how long were they investigating your son's case? Did they close it as well, or are they technically still investigating it?
no, it's been closed. That's why it took me maybe 2 years or just over 2 years to get the case files, because it went from Dorchester, then it went to SLED, and then SLED held it for a while. And I continuously having conversations with them when they had the case about certain things. And once again, it just comes back to having talent, having a talented investigator that knows what he's doing and will leave no stone unturned. And
Right.
I almost ended up with the same results of what I had at Dorchester with their investigator. And once again, it's nothing personal. I mean, there are great detectives, and there are some that just that they're just not. They're not as thorough, and sometimes that's acceptable.
This could explain that very humbling and sad statistic that we showed at the beginning of the hour, that there's that many homicides that go unsolved. Is that it sounds like we just don't have enough really solidly trained people out there investigating them.
The problem that I was telling somebody the other day, that the problem is, when I got into investigations many years ago, I learned from a lot of talent, a lot of old detectives that had come through, the school of hard knocks, if you will.
Right.
But I learned from them. Those people are not around anymore. And as I get older, now the detectives are much younger, because the turnover rate is much higher in this profession. And what I know, I teach some of the newer detectives only because I've been around in the business for so long. And like I told the principal at a high school the other day, what I know isn't found in books. And what I learned from those other detectives isn't found in books.
Oh, I know. I learned a lot from my godfather's father, who was a hard-nosed police detective in Madison, Wisconsin, back in the 60s. And I learned a lot from him when I was in the police academy. I would take my work to him and have him look it over, and then he would say, take this with a grain of salt. You're going to learn everything you need to know out on the street. There's only so much you can absorb and learn in a police academy. It's all going to come case by case by case. And that's how a lot of these detectives built their knowledge. Their knowledge bank was just case by case, and they cared about the job, and they stayed on the job for years and years and years. And I think what you're seeing is there's so much turnover now because of law enforcement having so many bad apples in the ranks. It's turning young men and women off from even wanting to go into the profession.
True. It's a great profession. I enjoy it. It's in my blood now. I totally enjoy it. I've investigated many things, between persons crimes, violent crimes, into property crimes early on in my career. But the thing is the profession now lacks a lot of, hands-on, I guess, experience and training. And I hate it. I hate it because while I'm familiar, it's kind of like a brain surgeon, same thing. If you want somebody to operate on your family member, you want the best in the business, right?
Right.
If something happens to a loved one, tragically, you want the best of the best working on that. And in my case, it's the same for my stepson, DJ Daniel.
Yes.
That was my wife's only son. And unfortunately, there is no avenue that a family can take, like me, even me in my past, there is no avenue that I can take other than a civil avenue, when
Right
those two agencies are unwilling
Yes.
to do the right thing.
Exactly. And that's exactly, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Ellen Greenberg case, but that's also a case that parallels yours in many ways. Different circumstances, of course. This is, in my opinion, Ellen was unalived by her fiance in either a fit of rage or premeditation. I haven't been able to ascertain that yet, but I am 100% confident that he did it. And I can say that because it's my opinion on my channel. But she passed away many years ago, and her family has fought and fought. They originally ruled it a homicide, and then miraculously 2 months later, after these so-called secret meetings that were found out later that happened, the medical examiner overruled himself and changed it to an unaliving of herself. And they're saying that she stabbed herself 20 times, 10 in the front and 10 in the back. And after the family had to hire a private medical examiner, which is my next question for you all, that person determined that there was no way, because several of the wounds were life-ending wounds, and that she could not have given them to herself because she would have already been incapacitated. And they never investigated. They automatically assumed, because he tricked the lock to make it look like she locked herself in the apartment. But even a 1 year on the job detective could have figured out that was a bunch of crap. And then that they just, I think they were in on the cover up, because his uncle is a very prominent judge, is retired now in Philadelphia. And it was all corruption. It was all corruption. And he went on to get married, have another child, live in New York City, while her parents suffered and suffered. It was their only child, Ellen Greenberg, justice for Ellen Greenberg. And we've lived about her a lot. And they had to take the same route you're taking. They had to sue the police department and the city. And they won that. And because they got a settlement, because when the old medical examiner was about to be called as a witness, he recanted, and he wrote a letter saying that he was mistaken, and that over the years he's followed the case and what the Greenbergs have done and uncovered. He should, if he would have known all of that. But I don't buy any of that. I think he was coerced into changing it from a homicide to an unaliving, and I think he should be held legally accountable for what he did. I mean, he shortly thereafter quit that job in Philadelphia, moved to Florida, and is a medical examiner down here now, somewhere down here. And so right now we're waiting for the medical examiner that is currently there to hopefully overturn this back to a homicide. And then Philadelphia has to be recused, which is what happened in your case, because they didn't want to deal with it. So they passed it on. Well, now they've passed it on, and now I don't know where it's going to go, but it has a lot of threads that are similar to your case. So let me bring that around. I'm sensing by something that your lovely wife wrote in our friend zone that there is possibly some corruption involved here. Now, were some of these people that were involved with your son's death potentially linked to some people in the sheriff's department?
Yeah, I would say that there is a common link, through a family member, there at the sheriff's office. But I couldn't tell you, because that interview needs to take place. But I can tell you he was mixed up with a female that is related in the family. So yes, and I think that ultimately may have cost him his life because of that relationship. Without going into a detail.
We don't want to compromise whatever investigation that you and your wife and friends that have helped you have built to this point. Absolutely not. So now, when did you hire your own medical examiner?
So actually, I will tell you, and I'm so thankful that Fitz News did what they did, because while we had done all that we could do, we were having a lot of difficulty getting some visibility. And they were very, very, very helpful in allowing me to present all of what we had done, and then what you've just, you've put out on your podcast tonight, some bits and pieces of the work that they had done. But
I have another clip to show too from them. I've watched I haven't watched all of the episodes, but I thought she did a fantastic job, and I contacted her, and I know she's very busy, but she was very kind and reached back out to me, and I'm hoping that we can come on with her next time, you and I. And is her name Jennifer?
yes, yeah,
Yes.
Jen Wood. Yep.
Yes. So she was very kind, responded back to me, and I'd like to set up something with the three of us. I just wanted to be able to live stream tonight just to give my subscribers
Sure.
an idea of what your family has been through, because that's what we're doing on Thursdays at Social Change Warriors, is we are calling out corruption. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we can talk about that off screen, because I'm always very conscious of what I live stream and how much the family wants me to live stream, because we don't want to compromise whatever investigation you now at least have going. Several of the other cases that I'm advocating for, there's nothing happening. So we are allowed to say, they've given me carte blanche to basically advocate and bitch and complain and call them out as much as I want, because nothing is in peril, because they're not doing a stinking thing. But at least in this case, you have done your own work, and you're finally getting some things happening. And do you want to tell the audience what you at least have in the wings right now without compromising where you're at?
Well, the biggest thing that we have going on right now is our wrongful death suit that we have deposed several people in this case. I will tell you that those people, some of the people that we have subpoenaed, not very many, most of them have came in and done their depositions with the attorney. But we do have a couple of people, primary people, that have ignored their court-ordered deposition or subpoena. So those are currently in I don't want to say General Sessions Court, but they're awaiting a judge's order now.
So in South Carolina, then, are they considered in contempt?
Yes, that is
court?
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
and if they may not realize it, but they are in contempt, and if it's allowed, the judge could issue a bench warrant for that contempt and put them in jail, and there they would have their deposition. But
and how many of those people have not come to court? Two?
I'm sorry.
Did you say two of them have not shown up for the?
Yeah, there's about 3 people right now that have kind of ignored that subpoena. And those are the ones that our attorney's working on now. But that's probably the most important part, because we've got a tremendous amount of valuable information from these people, because basically we were able to ask the questions of them that the detectives should have asked.
Yeah, exactly.
From both agencies. And those questions were asked under oath. And while those are under oath responses from them, these responses are pretty damning to their original alibis of the other people, if you understand where I'm going with that.
Yes.
So, while those statements are under oath, they can still be transferred over into law enforcement, and they can be still used against these people, because it was testimony under oath and a civil action. So
exactly,
it still gives.
Who would, if your son's case was reopened, who would reopen it? Would it be the SLED?
They are the last ones that had the case. I would say yes. Personally,
so is that South Carolina Law Enforcement Division or Department? Is that what it stands for?
Yeah, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Yeah.
Okay.
Division.
Thanks. That's what I thought you were going to say, but I wanted to make sure with the acronym that I had it right. So
the other thing is I'm convinced that there is some sort of corruption in this whole, based on everything that I gave him. I mean, it's as though that the case is just being ignored from the first time that I delivered information to them. And then now with everything else that I have, it just seems that there's corruption. At one time, we had talked to the FBI, and we were told that the FBI was going to open the case here in Charleston because out of their own mouth said that this is definitely a corruption case, and we were the case. And then we didn't hear anything for what, 3 months. And so my wife, Lisa, she finally called, and, because we didn't hear anything. And we were told that we decided we're not going to open the case. And without any reason why not or anything like that. So I felt like somewhere, somehow, one of these two agencies, it got shut down. It got shut down. Yeah. And so
this is interesting. Now I keep drawing these parallels because I'll tell you, so many cases, and you could all have a support group together, because Sandra Birchmore in Stoughton, Massachusetts, which is just a stone's throw away from where John O'Keefe died, she was killed in her apartment, and the person who killed her made it look like she took her own life by hanging from a doorknob. And the police investigation was horrible, and it was, in my opinion, corruption, purposely horrible, because it was a police officer that unalived her, and he had groomed her since she was 13 years old, I believe, and no one ever caught on to it. There were 3 other officers involved at the minimum, all from this Stoughton, Massachusetts, you shining example of nothingness, allowed this to go on. She was a police explorer. And then when she got pregnant, this married police officer who already had 2 children and another one on the way unalived her and framed her for her own passing. And the corruption is thick and disgusting, and nothing was being done. They ruled her death a suicide. Sorry, YouTube. And then that was it. And so her family was, all they were left with was what you have had to do, which is file, civil suit. And there was an advocate named Mizzy who didn't believe this at all. She was a resident of Stoughton. She did not know Sandra, but she just felt for her family and felt compassion for this situation. And she started an advocacy group, and they started protesting in downtown Stoughton, and they put the heat on, and they made flyers and posters, and they got a social media campaign going. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the live show when my little Tanner was barking. It takes a village, and sometimes you have to put the pressure, because these corrupt, dirty cops, I'm sorry, but that's what I call them, and I was one, so I get to call a spade a spade. They have to be held accountable. They have to be called out. And if what it's going to take is to get a village going for all of you, for you in your community, and start having protests to get your son's case reopened, I'm for it. I'm not far from you guys. I'm probably a 5-hour drive. I'll drive up and organize it for you, because this is utterly insane what your family has been put through. And thankfully, because of Mizzy and her core group of Sandra's soldiers, as I'm calling them, and we have Sarah's soldiers here in Marion County, they were for the FBI. They swooped in, and they are the ones that took over the case. To this day, Massachusetts has not charged that utter scumbag crap police officer with zero zip. It's the FBI that swooped in and took over. So I still have faith that we could get a large enough group of supporters behind you all, and that we could push for your son's case to be reopened, because this is utterly despicable what you and your wife have been through, and what you have had to do as a former law enforcement officer, literally investigate your son's case yourself. It's just a crying shame, and everybody in that department in Dorchester and the SLED, they should all be so ashamed of themselves.
Yep. Hey, I wanted you to, I don't know if you've met her or talked to her, but I'm going to let her sit right here real quick.
Yes. Thank you for, walking us through all of that. And I can only imagine how painful that this is for you to have to relive this in order to do this investigation, but you have to. The Greenbergs have had to, Sandra Birchmore's family had to, now Karen Reed's family has to. I mean, all these families, Michelle over here in Marion County, Sarah Karavich here in Volusia County, they are being forced to do what you're being forced to do, which is fight for your family member and fight for justice for your family member.
Well, what I want people to understand, the biggest thing I want them to understand is a lot of people that have came to me and said, law enforcement said, well, this is what it is. Well, it doesn't, and they don't have anywhere else to go, no outlet, nowhere else, which is true. It's hard if you don't know how to, what to do. And, we had contacted ombudsman and all of that, which is a whole nother, I don't even know why the governor has ombudsman, because they're like, we're just here to take the complaint and call the sheriff's office and see what's going on, which they did, or send them the letter. And they said, so now you need to file a complaint, because they said that you needed to file it through the internal affairs guy. And I said, but the internal affairs guy, his grandson-in-law is the one that's over CID. So why am I going to file anything when his grandson is over CID? Why would we write anything?
Right.
And they were like, well, they have to do something. I said, you don't know Dorchester County. So and we know that we filed a civil suit. We know that because of the civil suit, these people don't have any money, or they don't have anything we're going after. But filing the civil suit and getting these subpoenas done under oath can then turn into criminal. And and
what people need to understand is when a family has to go the route of a civil suit, and that's your only option, money is the least of your concerns.
Right.
You don't care about money. You're trying to get justice, but lawyers are expensive, and a lot of what you have to do is expensive. So like in the Greenbergs case, I think they have spent over $800,000 trying to get justice for their daughter. So
wow.
That is insane. And you don't know what costs are going to add up for you. So you do deserve some type of compensation for the mental grief that you've been put through with your son's case going unsolved, and nobody willing to stand up and admit that your son was M-worded.
And there's never going to be enough money. I don't care what they were to come up with. Never enough money, because number one, this shouldn't have happened. Number two is that they took his life. He had a son, and they had no right to take his life. None of them did. And it was over nothing, but he was protecting. I'll be honest, he was protecting a girl that was pregnant, that was being beaten. And she is the niece of the head pathologist at MUSC. Erin Presnell is the head pathologist at MUSC. And I don't bite my tongue about it at all. Her name is Constance Wimberly. And yes, she is related. She is the niece of the Knights. So that is what it is. And he was protecting her, and her boyfriend did not like it. Did he stand up for what was right and protect a woman? Yes, he did. Do I regret that he stood up to protect a woman? Yes, I do. And
I don't blame you, but he was a hero to do that. And that was in his nature and in his DNA and in the way you raised him to protect a woman who somebody was hurting.
Right. And then on top of that, her boyfriend beater, or whatever you want to call him, he's been arrested. His name is Mikey Bunch. He's been arrested, let's say 30 times. I don't know. I've got his rap sheet. But here in Dorchester County, what is the deal? Why do you keep letting this man out? Why was he out why was he out on, let's say, August the 9th? He was released, or whenever it was, in 2018. And he never saw a bond judge, but then again, he's picked back up.
Well, your husband knows how the court system works and how bail and bonds work.
This isn't normal. He was released and never went in front of a judge. And then he was released again. And he was caught again on our road right after my son was murdered. No, she just went. So that's not normal. But
Do you all consider him a person of interest?
oh yeah, he's the main one. Yeah, he's
That's
one.
what I
Yes. And he has even put himself out there, correct. He has said that he was out there that night. So, I mean, yes, he is.
You
His
guys know where this happened, where this girl, was this ongoing that she was being beaten, or was she being beat up right in front of your son that very night at this party?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I-
Okay.
I don't know. I do not believe she was out there that
Okay.
night, but
So this is something that had gone on prior that your son was aware of, that if he was the father of the child, she was a domestic violence victim.
right, and he wasn't, but it had been going on. And
Okay. But he was just the boyfriend of this girl at the time.
well, not my son was not the boyfriend. He was just did not
No,
like.
I mean the person who was beating her up was her boyfriend, correct?
Yeah, I guess if you want to call it that.
Whatever they were, but that makes them domestic violence partners, basically domestic
Right.
partners. And so that makes him a domestic violence abuser if he was
Right.
continually beating her up and the people around them knew about it.
Correct. And she's never shown up for the subpoenas.
So
So
she's- oh,
yeah, and so that was one thing. And then the other girl, Ashley Adams, I think she had it all set up, planned. It sent out information that he was out there, that he was at her house that night.
is that whose house the party was at?
Yes. Well,
Has
it
she-
was.
Has she shown up for her subpoenas?
She did. She showed up and she lied the whole time, and I guess didn't know that she was sitting there lying. It was her house and Catherine Boyd's house, and they were renting it. And it happened, that rental also happened to be the uncle, I guess one of the uncles, first or second, related to the girl that my son was taking it for. So
Have you guys ever made yourself like a board that shows all the players and how they connected to your son? Has anybody done that for you, or have you done that yourself?
I think my husband has done that. He has done so many presentations to so many.
You
Didn't-
told, well, if he has one already made, send it to me, please. Otherwise, I'll make you one.
Didn't you make a board with all their pictures and names in it and the connection?
That huge PowerPoint.
Yes, he has it in one of his PowerPoints. So
Okay.
we presented
Excellent. If he can send that to me, then I'll kind of incorporate that into my case file that I'm building, and that'll
has
help
He has presented.
understand all the players and what's involved here.
Right. He has
So let me tell you guys a little something about this other case with Kara wouldn't mind me sharing. Her husband was killed in a bar fight, and it should have never happened because her husband was drinking. He was intoxicated, and I'm interested to hear your husband's take on this. And I'm telling you this story for a reason. So like I tell you all about these different cases because you all have common threads, and in some way, shape, or form, some of the things I learned from other cases could be beneficial to your case because that's how it goes sometimes. Solving one case can help solve another case because they have so much in common that the 1 + 1 + 2, rule applies. Jason was intoxicated that day and he was very drunk and he was being obnoxious at a couple different bars that are just right down the street from one another. He was kind of yelling at the bartenderess. She wasn't serving him anymore. And he was just being loud and boisterous. He was a very big man. He was like 6'5", 250, 275 minimum. And so he could be a little intimidating, but he wasn't striking anyone. He didn't threaten to strike anyone. He didn't brandish a weapon in a bar. He never said he had a weapon. He never said he was going out to his car to get a weapon. He was just being a jerk and kind of shouting and being obnoxious. Well, one of the patrons who's a regular there gets irritated with this and gets pissed off at Jason for his loud, boisterous behavior. He leaves the bar. This is several witnesses have stated this, and I have heard the testimony. He leaves the bar, goes out to his vehicle, and comes back in with nothing less than a hatchet. It was about 3 feet long. Come to find out later when I listened to his interview that he made this. So it was more like a tomahawk. It wasn't, but everybody was calling it a hatchet because that's what it looked like to the naked eye to most people. But it turned out that he makes these himself out at his farm, and it was like a tomahawk. He brings this into the bar.
according to the witnesses, several of them, he held it over his head, and one of the witnesses said he came into the bar with intention. And he slammed it on the bar, and he said something to the effect of, "You better knock this off, and we're sick of your shit." And then he picked up the hatchet as if he was going to put it towards Jason's neck. So Jason then got up out of his bar stool, took the guy, slammed him to the ground. The hatchet goes flying, and they're fighting on the ground now. And these guys that are also regulars there, one of them who was sitting with Hatchet Man, Michael Beery, he jumps on top of Jason, and then two other men come to help restrain him, they say. And now they already knew that police had already been called. The Hatchet Man already knew before he ever went out to get the hatchet that Dawn, the bartender, had called the police to come and eject Jason from the bar. So there was really no major concern here. They decided to hold him down, and they were holding him down in such a fashion that they asphyxiated him, and he died.
Wow.
Wow.
Case has been closed. Nobody was arrested. I've played all the audio interviews on live streams week after week with Kara, his brave wife, and they refuse to take any accountability for not calling out the lying that went on. The differences in the lies is just insane. Like 1 minute there's a witness is lying, the next minute they're supposedly telling the truth, and the detective doesn't call him out for lying. He doesn't write him a citation for lying or obstructing a police investigation. And they determined that this was Florida, that even if they arrested Hatchet Man and Michael Beery for manslaughter, that they would bring out the Florida and stomp it around the courtroom, the Florida stand your ground law. Now, help me understand this, sir. You were a police officer. I don't care what state you live in. How in the world is the man who went out to the car and brought a hatchet back into the bar the one who gets to use the Florida stand your ground law?
Right. Exactly. Well,
Does that make any sense to you?
yeah. No, it doesn't. Yeah.
So they just didn't want to deal with this case. And the detective is actually caught saying this more or less. I just want to get this wrapped up and close this case. So what is happening right down the street from me here in Volusia County is exactly what happened to you. They did not want to be bothered with an investigation. And then it got to the level of, we go to this bar. This is a community member who probably donates to the sheriff's department, and we don't want to mess with his business. So we're just going to sweep this under the rug. So hence enter corruption. And that's exactly what happened in your case as well, it sounds like. So they're very parallel in how at first it just, let's not deal with it. Let's just look at the most obvious thing it could be. Let's not do a proper investigation. Let's not separate the witnesses. Let's not write anybody any citations for lying and obstructing a police investigation. Let's just sweep it under the rug and call it a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They don't want to disturb the ones that give them their money to get them in office, or
Right.
It's unreal. If you look at Justice Investigations, a lot of the information's on there too, on YouTube.
Oh, let me write that down. You said Justice Investigations?
No, do you have TikTok?
Oh, sorry.
I don't. It's the one form of social media at the age of 62 that I refuse to go on. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and the Twitter X, as I call it.
Yeah, so people had told me I'm not a TikToker either, and I'm not going to disclose my age, but I'm not far. I'm not going to say I'm not older.
I'm proud I'm still here. I disclose my age every live show. I think I'm one of the oldest content creators in my little circle of true crime that I know of. So I disclose my age all the time. I'm proud to be almost I just missed being a boomer. My mom is a true boomer, but I was born in 63. So I'm right on the cusp of being a boomer, or being my sister's generation, which is Gen X, but I don't associate with them. I'm more of an old school, old heart girl. So I like to be called a boomer.
Yeah. So if you had access to, if you could get onto TikTok.
I can. Yes.
Yeah. So if you go to Justice_investigations, you'll find me on there, and you're gonna little short videos that I have done, and I have introduced different pieces of evidence,
Okay.
even as much as the railroad. You'll find in there, this is another failure, and this is a huge one.
Yeah.
So there were 5 trains that went through where his body was found on the tracks. 5. Of those 5 trains, there was only 1 train that played a part in being able to see what they believed was his body on the tracks at about 3:45 a.m. on the 11th.
Okay.
Because at 6:30
Writing
p.m.
that down.
11th is when they found his body.
Okay.
All right. So
Who found him? What did the train stop afterwards then?
yes, at about 5:36 p.m. that train does stop, but all of the other trains that went through there, they didn't find him. They just, for whatever reason, I don't know, the train operators didn't see him. But what I was going to tell you is the train that at about 4:05 is the one that you can't tell what it is, but it looks like something laying between the rails of the train as it travels down the tracks. But that train is doing about 43.7 miles an hour at 4:05 a.m. At 4:06 a.m., it slows down to 21.9 miles an hour and blows the horn manually, like blowing the horn. So basically,
Right.
it slows down almost 50% of its speed within a minute and blows the horn. And in that TikTok that I'm telling you about, there are some photographs that was enhanced from the photographs that we obtained from Norfolk Southern through Discovery. And that was in the Sleds case file. But hang on. But anyway, you're going to see 4 individuals that were enhanced in that video at the end of those tracks. And what I believe that is those guys had dumped his body on the tracks, and they were on their way out off the tracks when that through there. And I believe that's why the train slowed down so fast in less than a minute's time and blew the horn, is because they had people on the tracks.
Okay. Wow. That's eerie.
That's
eerie and tough for you to see, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Gosh.
yeah.
All right. Well, I have a job. You've given me an assignment. I'm going to check out your TikToks and see what I can possibly we can show. How I can put together something to show next time, because there is a lot to your son's case, and I want to continue to advocate for you. And in the meantime, you can send me lists of anything I can do to help you with what you're working on right now and what you will allow me to live stream about, so we don't upset the integrity of what you've done.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff on the TikTok that,
Okay.
I had just reached the point to where, I can't get in. I can't, it's so difficult, to get anyone's attention for justice, and
I know it is.
The wrongful
There's
death
so
is
many.
the only thing I have in my control, because law enforcement, the FBI, nobody has been willing to come to our aid, in seeking justice. And it is terrible that someone died, and nobody is willing to go conduct an investigation. And frankly, with everything
It's despicable. It is absolutely, there's no excuse for it. That's the bottom line. There is utterly no excuse for this investigation not to have moved forward, and for all these people to have been interrogated and as persons of interest, and to have it's mind-boggling to me. I can't even get over it. Now we're talking about crime, corruption, and covering up and not solving a murder in so many states right now. I mean, every day I seem like I learn of a new case in a new state where almost the exact same thing is going on. We cannot be bothered to solve this. We're too busy. This is shut, this is cut and dried. We're just going to go with the very most obvious thing. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to conduct an investigation. And then the families are just left torn apart.
With nothing. Yeah. With
nothing.
Just whatever they tell them is what they have to accept.
Right. And that's crap.
Right.
It's unacceptable. It's utter BS, and that should never stand. And so I'll be in touch with you and your wife via our way that we're communicating now. You have my number and I have yours, and we'll build an advocacy campaign for you. That's what we'll do for right now. You're handling the civil end of it. I'll try to help you with building an advocacy campaign. I'd also like you to send me the contact information for the person that you were in touch with at the FBI.
Yeah, Lisa has that. So I'll get her to get that to you, because she has all of that. But yes, absolutely. And like I said, that was the Charleston location. And I don't want to say that there's corruption, because I'm a factor. That's all. I believe in strict facts, and I don't like to talk about anything and make accusations.
Yeah, I understand. I completely get what you're saying. I know that there are parameters, right, that the FBI has to be able to answer to in order to take a case over.
Yeah. But
they should have at least told you that you didn't meet those, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they did not. And, and after I presented everything, before we left, it's like, you definitely have a corruption case, and we are definitely going to open it. And then silence, just silence.
Did they put that in writing to you, or was that told to you?
No, it was before we left the meeting.
And you didn't record that meeting, did you, by any chance?
No, I sure didn't. I wish I would have. But
yeah, Kara's been recording her meetings now that she has with Volusia County or with anybody to do with her husband's case. So because they should be recording them. They should be recording them because they should have nothing to hide. But as I'm finding in a lot of these other cases that I'm advocating for, especially like I was saying, the one in Canton, they didn't record a single damn interview of any of the so-called witnesses to that after bar party. They did not record a single damn interview. It's just such poor police work.
Excuse me 1 second. Gotta run. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
He was eating. But what happened, one of the guys that worked at Dorchester County when he worked there, when my son was murdered, also went over to work for the FBI in Charleston.
Interesting.
And he wanted him to sit in that meeting.
I don't know that they will answer me, but if you don't mind sharing your contact information with me, send it to me in a private message.
I will.
Or text it, either way, because I will make an effort to. I've been surprised before. I've been to meetings already with the Volusia County and with the Marion County here. I've been surprised that they're willing to talk to me and let me at least answer my questions as the family's advocate. So it's worth a shot. I'm never afraid to ask questions. I'm never afraid to call anyone. So just send me whatever numbers you have, and I'll make calls.
I'm not sure that the number I have, if he connected, and we're going to have to look back in Eric's notes with one of the other ones, because I have a number that someone had given me to contact this guy directly. And
okay. Well, you take your time. There's no rush, but I would like to at least attempt to make these contacts, because they have helped a little bit with the other two cases, not a lot, but a little bit. And, if that's the best we can do on my end for now, I'll be glad to do it. But then I can also start working on the advocacy campaign for your son.
Okay. And someone else was with him when he was told that too. So, it was more than just him sitting there.
So there was someone else that heard them say that there is corruption in your son's case.
Yes. So, and we know without a shadow of a doubt now that there is.
Yeah, it would appear that by everything that I've looked at. What I'm going to do to end the night for my subscribers is I'm just going to show another clip of what a great job the Fit News has done for you and your family on their end. And then if you can reach out to Jennifer and let her know that I know a lot of people forget to check their Facebook private messenger. So if you can give her my actual phone number and reach out to her, I would like to have her on next time with you and your husband and just go over some of the advocacy that they have done for you via their news channel.
They've been amazing. And this is a picture of him when we were down. And he will.
I am so sorry.
But Fitz has been amazing with everything. And actually the file that came from the railroad, she had actually just kind of got a wild hair up her that day and sent it to sent a FOIA to the railroad. And when
I just wanted to show you this comment from AJK is one of our subscribers, and she follows cases and is an advocate. She said that she has seen all of the Fit News series.
Okay.
He or she. So some of our handles are unisex.
Right.
So I never, until I actually get a chance sometimes to converse with, and I do converse with a lot of my subscribers, and I get to know them. Then I'll find out if they're a male or a female. But
and tell them there will be more. Obviously, there will be a lot more coming out. We're just kind of in the holding thing right now, waiting on a few.
Yes, we want to protect the integrity of your case, but we can advocate for him in the meantime. We can advocate for what already hasn't happened, which was a proper police investigation, and we can complain about that and advocate about that, and then we can advocate for justice for the case to be reopened or for the FBI to take it over while you're doing the civil suit without naming any names or disclosing anything that would hurt your civil case, because we definitely don't want to do that. So I will always run everything by you before I live stream. So you'll be invited to come to any of them that I have with you about your son. You don't have to be here, but you can be here. And then I'll clear everything with you before I go live as well.
I'll tell you real quick, our attorney is taking it to have it reopen. So he's got that, like he knows it's got to be reopened. And so that is one of the next.
Somebody committed a crime and they're not arrested and they're not being made to pay for it. And that's just not right. And so we have to continue to fight for justice for your son until that happens. And I didn't put up those stats to make you feel bad or to make you feel hopeless, but I like statistics. As a former police officer and a social worker, I need statistics because those give me something to strive for at times. I want to beat the statistics, right? And we want to be the statistic that's pushing change forward. And so I need those sometimes to help me stay motivated, even though they can be dreary and sad at times. But you have to know the plight. You have to know what you're up against. It's important. It's part of our motto here, which is knowledge, power, action, change. Without knowledge, you can't get the power to do the action to make the change. It has to all happen as a domino effect.
And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the statistics too, they rule them as something very, odd or whatever. I have myself in probably about 4 or 5 moms that have fought and didn't know where to go. And a lot of this is in Dorchester County. So they just ruled it as, it was a suicide or we don't know. And they have sent them to the solicitors and nothing's happened. And I mean, I have several people that have that. So the statistics, they're great, but the way that they label them or unsolved so that they leave the case open so that nobody ever knows anything. And
That's exactly what Kara was talking about last week, that, you know, they didn't want to be bothered to figure out what happened to her husband because they didn't want to hurt these regulars and hurt the bar owner, that he could possibly lose his bar. And they're trying to blame it all on Jason because he was being unruly and you know, verbally abusive to everyone. So
Right.
it was easy for them just to pass it all off that, oh, it was his own fault. He did, you know, if he hadn't done what he did, then they wouldn't have had to have held him down. So it was an accident. It was nobody's fault. That was easy for them to do.
Right.
But that's not justice. That's not right based on how it happened. The actions of these people, that they were in their control. They could have stopped themselves from holding him down that long. They should have realized they were hurting him, that he couldn't breathe.
Exactly.
And then somebody has to be held accountable for that, because that's manslaughter. That's causing an accidental death of someone else by your hand. That's what it is.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be surprised how many they have left open so that nobody can ever FOIA anything.
Right.
So that
Exactly.
any there
Can't get a police report. What you get is like what I got from Where is Sarah Elbersol, the missing mother in Marion County, which was 31 pages of a 386-page document. And even those 31 pages were redacted because they've kept her case open, but they are literally doing nothing. Like, it does not appear that they are doing anything at all to solve her case.
Same. And ours had not been touched, I think, in a year and a half. I'm not exactly sure on the numbers. It had not been touched in a year and a half. And ironically, we don't even know how this happened, but they had to go to the county attorney to get our case. Now, why would a friend of ours, attorney, have to go to the county attorney? Because the county attorney has nothing to do with cases that they're having to deal with, but had to go to him to get this closed. That right there tells you there's corruption. I mean, county attorneys don't handle stuff like that.
Right.
You know, so
there's always signs. There's like breadcrumbs that you follow that lead you from the connection of the collusion and the corruption that's going on in these cases. And it's heart-wrenching. It's terrifying for the general public that's why a lot of people have a hard time following these Justice for cases and the true crime cases, because sometimes you're better off not knowing, because you can live your life, you can go to work, you can raise your kids, you can go to their school events, you can do your hobbies, and you can just do this to all the corruption that's just literally floating around in a sea of muck around you. You know, that it's terrifying for people, and it's sad and depressing. But if you can turn it into a movement, if you can turn it into advocacy, then it's something, and that helps. And even if we just can solve 1 out of 5 of these cases for these families by being advocates and by speaking out and for calling out corruption, then that's something, and that's more than what we had 2 weeks ago or a month ago.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I was telling you with Fitz News. She just, it was weird, but she decided to FOIA Beaufort County because that's where our case was going to. And she decided to FOIA them. And when she did, that's how she got the pictures of the ones on the train track. And then they wanted to know, when Eric spoke to the railroad casualty or attorney, how did you get these pictures? What difference does that make? And it was not even attached to our case file. Jennifer Wood, she can tell you more about that, because
unbelievable. Yeah, I will definitely. I have a whole list of questions for her. Well, I'm going to end our night with a little bit of a clip from that, and then we can show more of that too the next time we convene together. But thank your husband so much for his courage to come on and speak with me. I know this is very, very hard on you. I've seen it with Kara and Michelle and Ellen Greenberg's parents and Sandra Birchmore's advocates. This is painful because you're living it every day. And in most cases, when the case is closed, that's when you can finally move on to your grief area, to your recovery area. But when you're in this limbo of not having justice for your family member, you're just reliving it. And then you have to relive it with advocates like me, because I have to know the case. I have to understand it to help you. And it breaks my heart that I have to force you to watch these videos and to relive all this. But
that's how we can help you, is by doing that. And that's Kara understands, Michelle, the Greenbergs,
Right.
Mizzy, they understand that for me to be a victim advocate, I have to understand what you're doing and what you've done to advocate for yourself, and then build an advocacy campaign for you from that. And so thank you for your
Well, thank
bravery.
you. Thank you for your service, also for everything
You're
you're doing.
welcome. Thank you.
I found you through Michelle, and I'm gonna tell you what: if anybody would ever want a sister, I would want a sister like her. There
Isn't
is,
she something?
yes,
Yes.
she is amazing.
I'll
So,
let her know. I'll let her know that you said that. I'll text her in the morning and let her know that you said that.
I
So
mean, she's
I don't
amazing.
know if you noticed, but there's a bunch of us that have been, many of her Sarah's soldiers have been calling out to Nancy Grace. There's like probably 50 of us that have written to Nancy Grace, emailed Nancy Grace, and Sarah was finally put in touch with a
Yeah.
higher level person, right? Via another missing woman similar to Sarah's situation in Tennessee. And so Michelle convened with her, and then she gave her this higher level email. And now Nancy Grace, after I guess she finally agreed to cover the Sarah Ebersol case on her show. So I don't know the date yet. Michelle will let us know. I'll
May
see if Michelle
27th, I think.
sometime in May, right?
Yes, I think it's May 27th. I was so
Okay.
happy.
Okay, good. So I'll have to, when Michelle and I live stream next, she can bring everybody up to speed on that. But I'm so happy for her. But see, that's what it takes, is a village. I think finally Michelle was able to get to a higher level, but I'd like to think that all those advocates, Sarah's soldiers, that helped by calling Nancy Grace out on Facebook and Twitter X and Instagram and emailing her. And I think she just finally said, "Who is this Sarah Ebersol? And why are all these people contacting me?" And I'm grateful to that. And Michelle is like a bulldog. I mean, she ain't got no quit, like they say
Nope.
in Canton, Massachusetts. She
Nope.
ain't got no quit. She is never gonna stop. And so talk Tyrone, if you're watching, I'm sure you're not, but that's my hashtag for you. You drove Sarah Ebersol somewhere. We know you did. There's factual GPS data evidence that you did. So tell us finally, once and for all, where
Right.
did you take her?
Yep, exactly. That's one question that he can answer.
He
Where?
can answer. It's a question. It's easy for him to answer. Where did you take her? And then
Yeah.
I would follow that up with, why has it taken you so long to answer that question?
Yes, it's like it's
Who
a
is
joke.
threatening you, right? Who's threatening you? Who's threatening your family? Why won't you answer that simple question? Where did you drop her off? Where did you take her? Because then we have something to go with. If you didn't hurt her and you don't know who did, somebody did after you dropped her off. And I think I know who that person is. And I think all of us know who that person is. But we can't go for that person if we don't know where you dropped her off, because that person's not communicating. That person's not cooperating with the police investigation.
Nope. And all he's got to do, yeah, exactly. We know who it was, and I pray for that baby every night.
Yep. Hashtag we know Joe.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't see that one.
That's my new one for him.
Good.
Hashtag talk Tyrone and hashtag we know Joe. So
Exactly.
those are the only two people that know what happened to Sarah Ebersol. There's no doubt in my mind. There's nobody else that could have entered the picture at that time of the morning after that type of a house party. That's it. It's those two, and something has to give.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. So,
and thank you again for your willingness to advocate for Sarah when you are still grieving and in the middle of your own nightmare for your own dear son.
No, thank you. And I thought maybe, even if Michelle went after them, I thought about that with, a civil suit. Would that make him maybe say something to the mom?
Well, I've talked to her about it, and so have many other people that are in her circle. So in her camp. So we'll let you know. I haven't live streamed with her in a couple weeks now. I think we did last week. So we'll definitely get back with her again next week. We've got updates. There was something crazy that went on her Facebook page with somebody claiming that they saw Sarah in a red truck at a grocery store, and that Sarah told this person that she was being captive and that she was being trafficked. Now,
Mhm.
That doesn't sound that far outside the realm to me, because one of my very dear friends that I went to grad school with at USC, that's what she does now. She works with an organization that helps rescue trafficked girls. And
Right.
she can't tell me much about these cases because that, that puts their
Right.
lives at risk. But the numbers, the sheer numbers of girls that are being trafficked right now in our country is despicable.
It is.
It's an epidemic, just like domestic violence. And this is all violence against women. And
Right.
we have got to find ways to stop this and put an end to it. And there has to be stricter jail sentences for these idiots and these criminals and they're psychopaths. Anybody that would traffic a young teenage girl or a college age teenage girl, literally kidnap her from her family and traffic her for sex for their monetary gain is the sociopath at the very minimum.
Yes, I agree.
And so
It's horrible.
the sheer numbers of those that I know exist via my friends that work in this realm, this deep, dark realm, it would not shock me if it turns out that Sarah is alive. It would not shock me if it turns out that Sarah is being trafficked.
I mean,
It really wouldn't. But that means that Joe and Tyrone are involved in it, either together or separately, because there's no one else that would have just taken her and entered her into trafficking at 4 a.m. when their phones were pinging together at 4 a.m. And when Joe had been stalking her for years and years and years and had been gaslighting her and just domestically abusing her for years.
Mhm.
There's no way he suddenly stops doing that unless he unalived her.
right.
And there's no way Tyrone's just going to not say anything and is going to lie about his cell phone and lie about where he was that night and then finally come clean because they arrested him and put him in jail. So
Yeah.
we're finally up at the tip of the iceberg with these two characters. We're no longer underneath the water. We know a lot now, and we know a lot more as to their, what they had done and what they've been doing. But according to the Marion County Sheriffs, it's an open investigation and they're working the investigation. Well, what are they doing? They could at least give out a little more information, because this is no longer rocket science. This is Joe and Tyrone, and they were either in cahoots together or they were separately doing something. And
Yeah.
all along, both of them are not good characters. But maybe only one of them actually was involved in either her trafficking or her unaliving.
Yes, exactly.
If it is one or the other. So either they worked together or only one of them did the deed. But something's got to come to a head with this, because it's just disgusting that they have not been able to come up with enough to arrest one or both of them.
Exactly. And I say to everyone, take off your blinders. It is out there.
Yes.
You're passing them, these people every day, all the time. People like Michelle and myself and Karen, everybody. It's all the time. Take off your blinders, because it's out there. Because one thing, when Eric, this wasn't he went into this job as a retirement job, really. He was bored when we moved and said he'd always wanted to be an officer way back years ago. And I always said, one thing is, think of it, if it's your family, work every case like family. And one day it was
your family. I know. And I've heard a lot of detectives say that, and they never think that you never want to think it's going to happen to you. Right. It's just terrible. Well, I'm going to pull up this little clip here and we can show more of this next time. I just want to end our night together with a little bit more information for my subscribers who don't know much about your case. And, and let's see, oh, wait, that was the one we just listened to. Let me go. That's right. That's the one. Or no, I think this is different, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. This is a different one. Yeah. Let me play this for a few minutes and see if this is the one that I'm thinking it is. I've watched and listened to so much from this amazing Fit News. So if any of you have never heard of them, give them a follow. They're independent. They're unapologetic. They're excellent. So let me know that that you can hear this. Okay.
Well, it's great. All of it fits and same.
From Carolinas, lawsuit brings renewed hope to family of Daniel Reed Smith.
Can you hear that? Okay.
By Jen Wood. Lesia and Eric Melendez have been searching for answers and, more importantly, for justice ever since the body of their son, Daniel Reed DJ Smith, was discovered on a remote stretch of railroad tracks near Ridgeville, South Carolina on August 11, 2018. For 6 long years, they have pursued the truth, finding some answers along the way, but never obtaining the truth about what happened to DJ or the accountability they desperately need. For Lesia Melendez, DJ's mother, the heartbreak began when she heard a few words on a police scanner 6 years ago about a body being found on the tracks.
Turn it
Even
down.
though no other details were
Sorry, this
mentioned, she
before.
knew in that moment her son was gone. Her husband, Eric Melendez, an investigator in the local solicitor's office, was unable to obtain any information about the incident. When limited information finally began to become available, things still didn't add up. After Smith's body was discovered on a remote stretch of railroad tracks, initial statements from the local coroner's office
Natural
indicated
causes,
he was
accidental,
murdered and placed
suicide,
at that
homicide,
location,
or
yet
undetermined.
investigators never arrived
Those
at
5
that
categories
conclusion.
constitute the manners of death
Instead,
most
they
commonly
seemed more
referred to by
inclined to
coroners
blame the
and
victim
medical
for the
examiners.
horrific end he met.
Almost every departure
Our
from this
team
earthly
spent
realm is
months reviewing
classified
this
using one of
voluminous
those
case
terms.
file, along
Yet
with
such
files
words
shared
seem
by Smith's
inadequate.
stepfather, covering
And
it
if
in
they are
depth
being
in our podcast FITS files. In addition to reviewing conflicting statements provided by the people who were with DJ on the night he died, we located key evidence provided by the railroad company, Norfolk Southern, that was both incomplete and misleading. In late September of 2023, we revealed the findings of an independent, expert analysis of Smith's autopsy, which confirmed the family's suspicions that foul play was involved in his death. While this report provided answers to some questions, it left us contemplating the existence of multiple crime scenes as we searched for more information.
Sorry, guys. I was trying to pull up the actual video for you and I could not get the darn thing to quit. So hang on 2 seconds. I'm trying to go back and actually get to the video. Sometimes it can be tricky trying to show video off of somebody's news feed. It's easier if I go right to YouTube, but I wasn't prepared to do that until I realized where it is. So let me see if I can just get this to play. Otherwise, I'll have to go right to YouTube. And pull it up from there. Did you hear that at all?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, it's not playing yet. So give me a second. I'm going to go back and try to find it on YouTube. Yeah, this looks like it's on their site, but it's not letting me. It is on YouTube. Okay, let me go to give me a second and I'll go to Fit News on YouTube and see if I can find it. In the meantime, I'm just going to go back and play the news article while I look for this, because this is a really good clip. It's only 9 minutes long, I think, and I wanted to play it for you guys to end the night. So let me go back. I'll just play. Let me share my screen one more time so I can put this up for you guys. This will just be the clip that we were just listening to while I look for the actual video that I want to show you guys. Sometimes it's tough to get these to play.
Okay.
I think that's the one that I wanted. Yeah. And let me know that you can hear this.
Okay.
Smith's body was discovered on a remote stretch of railroad tracks. Initial statements from the local coroner's office indicated
hear
he was
that?
murdered and placed at that location, yet investigators never arrived at that conclusion. Instead, they seemed more inclined to blame the victim for the horrific end he met.
Coming through?
Our team spent months reviewing this voluminous case file, along with files shared by Smith's stepfather, covering it in depth in our podcast FITS files. In addition to reviewing conflicting statements provided by the people who were with DJ on the night he died, we located key evidence provided by the railroad company, Norfolk Southern, that was both incomplete and misleading. In late September of 2023, we revealed the findings of an independent, expert analysis of Smith's autopsy, which confirmed the family's suspicions that foul play was involved in his death. While this report provided answers to some questions, it left us contemplating the existence of multiple crime scenes as we searched for more information. At that point, we realized that to truly understand what happened to Smith, we needed to go to the exact spot on the train tracks where his body was found. As our news team visited this remote, desolate location, one thing became immediately and abundantly clear: this was not some random spot. Whoever left Smith at this location planned to do so. That realization raised a host of other questions. Why choose this place to leave his body? How was his body moved to this location? Where was it moved from? And the most important question of all, what happened to Smith prior to his body being moved? Our team was joined on the tracks by Smith's parents as well as Columbia, SC-based attorney Tucker Player, who has been retained by Smith's family. After the trek to the tracks, Player spoke with us in detail about his involvement in this case as he works with Smith's family in the hopes of achieving justice for their son.
What was that like for you to go to the tracks like that?
It was tough. That was the first time I had ever been there. It was sad. Eric had went there, I don't know when, but he went there apparently shortly afterwards, because he knew that something didn't sound right, and that's where he really didn't see much there.
Right.
First time I had been there, and it was hard. Like I crossed those tracks all the time. It's about a mile.
Where you live? It's not far, right?
No, about a mile and a half, mile maybe. It was hard. It's hard going across the tracks.
I'm sure it is. My grandfather was hit by a car on a main street in my hometown called East Washington Avenue, about maybe 5 blocks from my high school. And it was shortly after my dad had died of cancer. So it was very tragic. And it's the main street. I mean, I go back to my high school basketball games at times because I am part of the booster club there. And I go past this intersection where he was killed all the time when I'm back home in town. And that's it's rough because it never leaves you that, you know, this is your child and this was my grandfather and their memory is with you daily all the time. But you have to go and pass the site where you know that they took their last breath. Well, in this case, we don't believe your son did take his last breath though at that railroad track. It was back at that house. It was
the last place that his known to be, and
yes,
it's very hard.
It's very hard. I'm so sorry. And I'm like I said, you're so brave to share this story with my subscribers and my friends, part of Social Change Warriors. And I can, just to be able to sit up here and listen to this takes an incredible amount of strength. So I'll just finish with this interview, the clip we're playing, and then we'll show the video that Fit did next time.
Okay,
when we get together.
Tell everybody, don't ever give up. That is the biggest thing. If you are fighting for justice, there's more than just the local sheriff's department. Keep fighting and keep fighting. Don't stop. And a lot of people, I know they say they don't have the energy. That's your child. That's your family. You have to gain the energy. They're giving you the energy. You have to.
That's right. Kara and Michelle are and now you are the 3 bravest women I've met in a long time. And Ellen Greenberg's parents are phenomenal. And Mizzy is phenomenal, who's advocating for Sarah Birchmore. And I just keep meeting amazing family members who, like you said, will not give up. And we will all work together and continue to advocate for each other until, you all get justice. And hopefully we can call out these criminals and the corruption and make them pay for what they've done to all of you, for their lack of policing and for their utter, just complete disdain for the law. It's just terrible. So, all right, I'm going to play this clip for everybody, and then I'll come back on and say my farewells for the night.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so honored to know you, and thank you for trusting me with your son.
Thank you for everything and wanting to fight for one.
Yeah, Absolutely. We have to stick together in this world, and we have to fight and advocate for everyone that's wronged, because we're truly all a village and we're all a community. So this will be
Right.
just the last few minutes of this clip from Fit News, and then next time I'll show the video from them. Are you able to hear that? Did it
No.
stand by?
He also shared his perspectives on the crime scene. Somebody went through an awful lot of trouble to get him there, he said. Player also pointed out what the independent forensic analysis confirmed, that Smith was not killed by a train but that his body was moved from another location and
Oh, I lost you.
I'm still here. My screen shares, I had so many windows open with so many different screen shares. I was confusing it. So I had to close out a few of these windows so that we could get the one that I want to finish playing open for you guys. If I close out the other ones, then it will stop tricking itself into wanting to play the one I don't want it to play. The technology involved in this it's pretty interesting. For super techie people, it's nothing, but I'm medium techie, so I'm learning every day and learning new every day how to share the screen and share these files. And so let me go back now and let's try this one more time. What happens is when I go back and forth from you and I talking and then playing it, sometimes it zings it right off of there. I'll have to call StreamYard and ask them how I can stop that from happening. Okay, now we can finish up. There's a little bit left.
No, 3/4 of a mile, Player said. It's a straight shot. There are no lights anywhere. The only light would have been the gigantic one on the front of the train. On February 5, 2024, Player filed a wrongful death lawsuit on behalf of Daniel Reed Smith's family, hoping to finally help the Melendez family find answers. According to the lawsuit, the investigation into Smith's death, which began with the Dorchester County Sheriff's Office before being transferred to the SC Law Enforcement Division, SLED, uncovered substantial evidence which suggested Smith could have been killed by multiple individuals on the night of August 11, 2018. 6 people: Michael Bunch Sr., Trenton Hogg, Brandon Reynolds, Corey Dunn, Michael Arana, aka Michael Muckenfuss, and Steve Creel, were named as defendants in the wrongful death action, given their status as being among the last known individuals to see Smith alive the night before his body was found, according to the filing. The lawsuit stated that upon reviewing the entire case file from both Dorchester and SLED, it appeared Bunch was dating Constance Wimberly and believed Smith to be involved with her, as well. After an alleged altercation between Smith and 3 others, Hogg, Dunn, and Reynolds, at the location of the party Smith was attending, Smith is believed to have fled the house. The lawsuit then claimed the men chased Smith down in a vehicle, running him over and killing him. Next, the filing alleged some of these men enlisted the assistance of Creel and Arana to assist in the cover-up and disposal of Smith's body on the train tracks where he was found the afternoon of August 11, 2018. 3 other anonymous individuals listed as John Does in the complaint are alleged to have made false statements to the police, fabricating a story about Smith purportedly deciding to walk home. When asked about the lawsuit, Player told us the standard of proof necessary to win a civil judgment is much lower than to secure a conviction on criminal charges. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=.
that's why I wanted to play that one, because that was basically what you and your husband just explained to us.
Right.
So I thought Fit News did a really good job of just surmising all that for everybody.
They did.
And then the names are there. I wanted to get those on the live stream so that I could go back and start to build my own homicide board, so I can see where all these people, you know, what they played, what role they played, and where they stand in all of this. So thank you again for
Thank you.
allowing me to represent your son and advocate for your son and for your family.
Thank you for everything. And we look
I haven't
forward to
done much
speaking.
yet. I've just listened. I've just listened and absorbed, but
That's
I
okay.
definitely want to do what I can to do for you, to help you with an advocacy campaign for your son, and to see what buttons I can push with law enforcement and FBI. I don't know. I'm not a miracle worker. You guys have done so much already, but sometimes all it takes is just more people, like you said, more people getting involved. And look what's happened with Sarah's soldiers. You know, Michelle has built an army around her.
Yes.
And I'm only just one of so many that are helping her with her sister's case. So that's what we need. And we will continue. So I'll be in touch, and I'll start to build a case deck on my own, but I'll also use some of your information. Then I don't have to do double the work. I will make sure and credit everything you give me that I put in my slide deck as coming from you, or coming from Fit News, or wherever I get it from. My journalism was my first career, so I'm very big about crediting proper sources and crediting people. So I get to use all three of my careers in this advocacy role that I'm in now: journalism, police work, and social work. It's
That's
a lot, but it's helpful. All three of
It
them help me with this and with the family. So my best to you and your other
Thank you.
family members, and we will be in touch very soon.
Thank you. You have a good night.
You
And I
too,
will
my
do
dear.
everything. I will send you the numbers and everything.
Yeah, don't stress about it. You know, this will be a slow build, but I don't ever rush into building case files. I like to work with the families at their own speed and at my own speed. But we will get there, and we'll do everything that we can do to help you here at Social Change Warriors.
Okay. Thank you. You have a good
You're
night.
welcome. Yeah, blessings to you and your family.
Same to you.
Thank you. Good night, my dear.
Good night. Bye.
Woo, got to take a breath, right? That is some stressful family trauma. And it is so discouraging, social change warriors and justice seekers, to hear yet again another case that could have probably been solved and justice done years ago. And why does this continue to happen? I am going to make a map now that we can put up. And I might have my creative department add it to our theme song, our cry for justice, My Life Mattered, Just Us, of all the states that we now are working with. It's piling up, it's adding up. And that's just one case in one state. We know darn well there's many more. I'd have to have a team, an army of volunteers helping me. And maybe we'll get there someday. But it's going to take that. We have to have social change warriors and justice seekers in all our communities. There are too many families hurting and in peril and not getting justice for their loved ones. And that's a crying shame. That statistic I put up at the beginning. Sorry, statistic. I'm tired. That should make us, that should be our call to action. That should be our cry, that we need more community members involved. We need more organizations like mine, like Social Change Warriors, or we need to be social change warriors. We need to have advocacy groups in every community doing this type of work to bring families justice for their loved ones, and get people arrested and fired, like what Mizzy has made happen and worked hard in her community that we learned about last week, and what she's done for Sandra Birchmore. And I don't believe that Matthew Farwell would have been arrested without the advocacy that they've done. I just think that the advocacy going on in Canton is amazing, to free Karen Reed and to get justice for John O'Keefe. These are examples going on right now on the ground. And Sarah's standout that I went to for Sarah with her sister Michelle put on a standout, a second one, or maybe it was her third one already. I don't know. I've lost count. It was the first one I've been able to go to over in Marion County to get Tyrone to talk, because this is getting to be absurd in some of these cases, that they're just on the tip of the iceberg now of finding justice for these victims and their families. So I just want to quickly give you a very short, it's late. We've been live streaming a while and we're all tired. And we have another big night tomorrow night because we will be doing our Friday Night Lies, and we'll be talking about the lies and corruption and what's gone on with the John O'Keefe situation, getting justice for him and for freeing Karen Read from her shackles of trial after trial. And I don't see how in a million years 12 members of the jury could possibly ignore the reasonable doubt in this case, much less what is right before everybody's face, is that John was beat up and he died on the front yard because he was in a fight in the house at 34 Fairview. And I don't know that we'll ever get justice for John because there's so much corruption involved. It's just stunning. So let me bring up my my last few slides here of the night to share just brief updates with you with the ladies that we're standing for, our victims. I'll have to stop the screen share here so I can bring that up for you, that we're standing for and remind you of who they are again. So Ellen Greenberg out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was found stabbed 20 times in her apartment, and it was mysteriously reversed, corruptionly, it's not a word, I'm just getting punchy, makes me mad, reversed to a unaliving of herself. And her case has never been solved, even though everybody and anybody that's seen the content creators that have created the backstory of this, Gavin Fish, Surviving the Survivor, Nancy Grace, myself, I have been live streaming about Ellen Greenberg now for almost a year. No one believes that this happened, that a school teacher with her whole life to live would stab herself 20 times. No one believes that. And the fact that he outsmarted himself, you outsmarted yourself, Mr. Sam, by rigging that lock to make it look like Ellen locked herself in her apartment. You got away with it all these years, but not for much longer, my friend. Suzanne Morphew, a mother of two, went missing on Mother's Day and was never seen again. And that is a travesty until they did find her, and she was deceased and she was in a shallow grave. And the only reason they found her was because they were looking for someone else that was missing, another woman. So the fact that the person who unalived Suzanne Morphew, and I do believe it was her husband and it was a domestic violence situation, was going to always get away with it because they were probably never going to find her. But by serendipitously looking for someone else, they found her. And now that case is at a standstill. I can't get any information about it. I'm trying. No arrests have been made. He's out there walking free. So I'll keep you as updated as I can and continue to advocate for Suzanne Morphew. Sandra Birchmore, who we were just talking about, we're getting some justice for her because of the arrest of Matthew Farwell, the person that we believe allegedly unalived her and framed her for her own death. He is currently in jail, but has yet to come before any court. But Mizzy told us last week when we met with Mizzy, Sandra's advocate, that there is a court hearing coming up, and they're also doing a standout on Sandra's birthday. So I will make sure and remind you of all that next week and give you dates for that standout and put them on my Twitter X and my Facebook for any of you that are in the area and are interested in going to the standout for Sandra Birchmore's birthday. And then this court hearing that's coming up in May, I'll make sure you have the dates for that. So these are just some more photos of Ellen, Ellen's parents, and the fight they've been through to get justice. We talked a little bit about that tonight because there's some similar threads to what Daniel's parents have gone through and are going through. Suzanne Morphew went missing in 2020, and we have no resolution at all at this point for her. And I'll keep you posted on that and what's happening with Barry, her husband. He was arrested once, but they had to let him go. And interesting. That must be from before. I don't know where that came from. There's some interesting stuff going on the screen right now, guys. I don't know if you can see that. I have no clue what that is. I'll have to look into that when we're done. But this is, again, a travesty that these three women have no justice yet. And then in Sandra Birchmore's case, we're hoping for justice for Robert Devine, William Farwell, who's not even in the state of Massachusetts anymore, and Justin Heel. They were all involved in the grooming and in participated with having sexual relations in one way, form, or another with Sandra Birchmore through the years of her abuse. Jennifer Farbo-Dulos, we have been advocating for her since the Michelle Troconis trial. She was convicted of being a party to a crime, and I don't know all the list of charges, but she's in jail. And Fotis Dulos tragically unalived himself, and I say tragically because he definitely unalived Jennifer and put her somewhere, and has never told anyone where he put her, and then unalived himself. So it's tragic because he didn't get to stand trial and he didn't have to pay for his crimes, and her family has really no closure because they have never been able to locate her. So we'll always continue to advocate for her and hope that maybe at some time someone will tell us where sweet and wonderful and smart and kind Jennifer is, so her family can have a proper burial for her. It's just a tragic case of an innocent person who did nothing wrong. She married the wrong person, and she had children with the wrong person. And so many of us could have been in this position. Many of us have been in this position, but we were able to get out alive. Sarah is who we're standing for here in Marion County. Suzanne Clark Simpson is still missing, but her husband has been arrested. And Ashley Lachey Elkins is still missing, but her past boyfriend is also arrested. And we're waiting to follow those cases into trial. Sarah, if you could share out, where is Sarah Ebersol? Hashtag, where is Sarah Ebersol? Michelle, it would mean the world to her sister and her other family. And I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you so much for caring about those that have been unalived by someone else and the families have no justice. Thank you for being part of Social Change Warriors. And thank you for subscribing to our channel. If you do that, that really helps us, not for monetary purposes. It helps us for advocacy purposes. And it gives us more that we can do with the platform, such as call-ins and other things that we cannot do until we reach a certain level of subscribers. So that's why I ask you to subscribe, because you can also turn on that bell and then you'll get notified when we're live streaming and in what time. So thank you, everyone. We do have a Cash App now, and that's been scrolling at the bottom. We also have a Venmo. These donations are only for program costs. We are not asking for anything else other than for program costs, which really isn't a lot amount of money per month. And anything above and beyond that per month would go to the families for costs for their flyers or their attorneys or whatever they ask me for that they need. And then we'll have a spreadsheet, full transparency of how that money is distributed. So if you feel like donating and you want to, that's great, but you don't have to. We're never going to go the super chat route here. We're an advocacy channel and that's not necessary, but we do have those scrolling at the bottom for you. The email is acttmsw@gmail.com. If you have any questions or you want to make any suggestions or advice, always appreciated, always welcome. So I'm going to close this out tonight with our theme song, My Life Mattered, Just Us. And we will see you all tomorrow night for Friday Night Lies, Justice for John O'Keefe, and Free Karen Read. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. Our stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. For every voice lost in the night. My life matters is the cry we sing. For the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall. For justice and truth, we'll risk it all. My